Yo, what's up guys, Nandro here. Welcome to week 16 of Ask Nandro. So as you can see, I have a lot of different questions this week, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the first question, when are you making a Python deck list and gameplay video? So I've actually done that. I did that I think 2 or 3 days ago. I'll go ahead and drop the link to to both of those down in the description of this video. It was pretty good games overall. I do have a secondary Python list, which I'll go ahead and share at a later date. I'll probably be what I share when I actually go ahead and actually open one. Here's fingers crossed. Are you going to play NEP? Alright, so I actually did as well play NEP. I haven't played it recently. I think the last time I played it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Again, I also have VODs for this if you want to get and take a look at my 2478 NEP deck. And then I'm also working on a separate deck focusing on that of Twilight Queen. Now for Twilight Queen, it's a really cool card. Obviously one of the first things that come to mind for things you can duplicate is obviously that of Mordecai, just because duplicating a Mordecai is very, very strong. However, there are other last words that I want to try out with it, and there's another different type of shell that I want to make work. When I finish making that deck, I'll go ahead and obviously try to upload that for you guys. It'll probably be maybe say end of this week, maybe next week, because again, I am in the process of moving at the moment. What do you think about Jorjor, aka Jormungand Blood? So Jormungand Blood is actually a deck that I actually like a lot. Now, I don't actually own the pieces to play the deck because I'm still missing 2 Jormungand and 2 Jormungand, 2 Venomfang Medusas, as well as a Trial of the Gorgons. Now, I don't feel like crafting Medusas just because, like I said, if I craft something and then I pull something and I pull it right after I craft it, I feel very, very bad. Especially if I know it's not going to be something that I want to ever play as a 3 of, and Medusa's not something I ever want to play as a 3 of. But for the Jormungands, I'll probably end up crafting those. Now the deck is very, very good just because it's sort of like the Blood version of PDK in that you can play it as multiple different decks in the same 40 cards, and that's very, very cool. Because that gives you that means that your deck has a lot of power, that has a lot of options that you can make in a given game, and it lets you kind of switch up your game plan on the fly. And when you can do that as a deck, that's very, very nice. Just because it means they can kind of contort your game plan to what it is that your opponent's trying to do to you, and go ahead and disrupt it if possible, or just go faster and be able to just kill them. But yeah, but I'll definitely go ahead and upload a deck list for it. Probably maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. Now it'll just be the deck list. I won't actually be playing it because I don't want the cards. But just to give you guys a general I guess template for if you guys wanted to make the deck yourself. Has Loki found a good home yet? To be honest, no. Only because, one, he costs a lot of mana to do. If you look at Loki, you'll be reminded of, say, Bran Bronzebeard if you've ever played Hearthstone. Or Hearthstone. For Bran, he's a lot easier to splash because, he costs 3 mana, which means they can combo it with a lot of things in the same turn before your opponent gets a chance to do anything about it. But Loki's just, he's a little bit too fair. In the sense of, one, you can't use targeting effects, you can't use things that would target the opponent, like say for example Temptress Vampire for a 9 mana deal 10. I mean, obviously that would be really, really broken, so I'm glad that you can't do that. But they also kind of double dipped in making it balanced by making it cost so much. So this way you can't actually do whatever broke thing it is you're gonna do in the same turn, unless of course that thing costs 2 mana. And that's very, very good, in my opinion. Well, it's very, very good, but also very, very bad at the same time. But anyway, I definitely think at some point it'll find a home in Ram Dragon, and whenever that happens, whatever fanfare caused it to be broken will probably get nerfed. and Loki will probably get nerfed as well. Although I don't really know exactly how you go about nerfing a card like that. The reason why I say Ramp Dragon is because Ramp Dragon has, in exchange for their creatures not having Rush or Storm most times, they generally have very strong fanfare effects. Like, say for example, Israfil. Israfil is actually one of the reasons why I thought Loki would see a home in Ramp Dragon in the first place, just because 9 mana heal 8 is pretty good, I hear. But also things like say Sawhawkville. So I haven't actually tried this yet, but I believe, and obviously, you know, you can go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, that you can probably go Loki into Sawhawkville, and the Sawhawkville will let you pull out 2 creatures at once. If so, that's actually very cool, because that means you can do something like say Loki into Sawhawk, pull out double Zeus, hit your opponent for 10, which is kind of cute. Or say Loki, pull out say Israfil, pull out say again the Zeus, and go ahead and have the Israfil clear while the Zeus goes face. You can set up 12 damage across 2 turns. So that's really cool. I really want to actually see if this is the case, but I don't actually have the chance to play Ramp Dragon at the moment, or at least play, you know, traditional Ramp Dragon. But yeah, but definitely expect to see it in Ramp Dragon at some point. What are good complicated decks to play? So to be honest, like I said immediately, first thing when I was thinking about how to reply to this, is that like complicated is very subjective. Same as how saying that something is like easy is also subjective. Now for me, I always say that playing stuff like say Ramp Dragon is both hard and it's also easy at the same time. But for a lot of people, they might just see it as hard, or they might just see it as like brain dead or things like that. So you know, like a lot of different opinions, a lot of different views, and generally no one singular person's views is gonna like fully match the other person's views on a topic a lot of times. But anyway, here's my short list. So I only listed like a few things. I didn't like go into like super detail about like all the things I could have listed, but just to give you a general idea of like what I think is hard. So the first two should actually come as like no surprise. Well, I guess both of them will probably come as surprises if you've never actually watched any of my videos. But my first 2 picks were Ramp Dragon as well as PDK. So obviously, I can imagine I'm going to catch a lot of flack and a lot of eye rolls here, so I'm going to go ahead and go into detail about this. So the reason why is because PDK, specifically that ramp version of PDK, where you actually play Bajas and Genesis and whatnot, like you do have a lot of turns where you have to like be actually like cognizant of how to actually like get your ramp, as well as how to like play to the board at the same time. Like you might think that playing Ayla on 3 is correct. Well, sorry, playing Ayla on 3 is correct 100% of the time. That's not true. That's not true in the slightest. Like there are some games where if you get the 2-drop and the 1-drop, it's actually better to play it out. Say for example, if you're versus Haven, it's better to do it that way. Or some games where you know that you don't actually have a good follow up on your turn 4. In which case, it's better to hold the Ayla for your turn 4, so that way you can evolve the Ayla and you can make it a very obnoxious threat for your opponent to deal with. Little things like that. As well as knowing when it is that you can and can't fervor, because like you may or may not have seen the many videos where my opponent like fervors on a bad turn or fervors at an incorrect time, and I punish them for it. Like they literally lose the game most times, or sorry, sometimes 100% of the time because they fervored. Like, I actually have a screenshot of a game I had, I think, literally, I think it was like yesterday? Yeah, literally yesterday, where my opponent tried to fervor on 5 when I had like 4 creatures in play. You never do that. No, that's such a bad play. Yeah, just like little things like that. It's the same thing for Ramp Dragon, because yes, like in the aggro matchups, it's actually pretty easy what you need to do, just because like, well, I guess it's easy for me, just because you have to try to play for tempo as much as possible instead of playing for value, and understand that like say things like say playing a fervor is like off limits. unless of course you just have unless of course you have such like a massive lead or just like massive control over the board, or unless of course you're in those like rare situations where you have the Desperation Forever. But I feel like 9 times out of 10, if you have the Desperation Forever, you're probably dying in the first place. But hey, bam. Like, but then like in the more like complicated matchups where it's say maybe either say less aggressive, or it's a matchup where you need to be very, very aggressive as a traditionally not very, very aggressive deck. Like say if you're Ramjack versus D-Shift, you actually have to be very, very aggressive, and you have to like do different things. But a lot of people like don't realize this sometimes, and they just like play it incorrectly, and they get punished, and then they die. It's just little things like, and obviously like this does apply to a lot of different decks, or probably rather almost every single deck in the game. However, I feel like for Ramjack in particular, it's more I guess obvious to me, because for the most part, the majority of the community, like, and mind you, that what I'm about to say next, it's not a flame or anything like that. It's just a true statement. Is that the majority of the community, they like playing curve decks. They like playing decks where where you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just like win. But for Ramjack, and Ramjack is not a deck that plays like that. Ramjack is a deck that has a lot of like different like abstract turns where you're not like playing on a curve. Like for example, if you didn't know, Ramjack doesn't actually have any good 4s. Yes, I'm ignoring your hop for this example, but yeah, Ramjack doesn't have any good 4s. They also don't have any good 6 drops. They also don't have any good 8 drops outside of Oro. But and as well as 7, with the exception of a Stalhalko, which isn't actually. I mean, yes, it's used in Dragon, but it's not actually a Dragoncraft unit. But yeah, and it's just being able to just adapt and go with the flow of that is very, very important. Like just because something is in your hand and you can play it doesn't always mean that you have to play it that turn. And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of people like don't really understand when they're playing Dragon. So it leads to a lot of just like easy, very, very easy losses if you're playing versus someone that can actually like capitalize on it. I mean, obviously that's not always going to be that's not always going to be the case, just because things like say 4 amps happen, like where you just like get 4 amped, you didn't get to apply any pressure on the person, and you just like lose. Like obviously, yeah, those happen, but I find more often than not, at least when I play, that I had to actually like work my ass off, because I'll only maybe say get 1 ramp. I'll be going second as well, and it'll be very, very awkward. I know the ramp I get won't actually be Sybil, like it will just be like a 1 IL or something like that, and like my Sybils will just be buried in my deck. Moving on. Alright, so I put Roach Force as well as PTP Roach, but I guess I should have just like specified Force as a whole. Alright, so like I said at the start, like this is very, very subjective, but for me, the reason why I put Roach Force is because like aside from me, whatever like my like personal feelings about Force might be, I know that for a lot of people, playing combo decks, which that's really the identity of Forest, is very, very difficult, just because, again, for a lot of people, it's okay, well, if I can play this card, I need to play this card, and that may or may not always be correct when you're playing Forest. Now I know obviously for a lot of people, the average Joe is probably going to understand they have to hold 0 costs, but just as easily, I also see people make a lot of like mistakes or whatever, like for example, where they'll they'll be at like 9 cards and they'll hold on to the EPM when they know that they don't have access to roaches at any time soon, or say people who go ahead and like play Venus and then go ahead and also play the Harvest Festival on the same turn, where you can't actually draw cards from the Harvest Festival, and instead of just using the Harvest Festival as a 0 cost for your roach potentially, little things like that. It's deck where you just have to like understand both risk management as well as when you can throw away certain pieces of your combo that are just like non-essential. But instead, I just see people just do like a whole bunch of well, I'm not gonna say brain dead, but I see people just do a whole bunch of like interesting plays that don't actually like make that much sense. Now, a good example of this, well, a good example of what I mean is that, okay, so a while ago I was streaming versus Sizz, and he was playing, I believe I was playing Dragon at the time. I don't remember what kind of Dragon I was playing, because I believe this is like probably a 4-star Forged Legends, and he had like an EPM in his hand as well as the Fina, and he was going first. He played out the EPM on 4, and his chat like roasted him about it, but it wasn't actually a bad play. Like it was actually the best possible play he could make, because he knows that if he plays at the EPM on my turn 5 as Dragon, that's gonna like deter me from actually wanting to play at that forever, because playing at that forever is probably a death sentence, because like for all I know that could be a desperation EPM, but it could not be. But I don't know that, because I don't know what's in his hand. But he knows that I'm not going to let that live, and it's just a good like deterrent play. But again, a lot of people at the time, they just they saw the greed, they saw that, okay, we'll just go ahead and hold this for your for your Roach or whatever, and just like use your evolve on that, use your evolve on the EPM, call it a day. But you can't always do that, and it's just being able to make those judgment calls is one of the core aspects of being able to play Roach. Well, it's just actually a good quality to have as a player, honestly. But I feel like for playing combo decks or whatever, it's essentially important, or especially important. I'm sorry. I also put down PTP Roach just because for PTP Roach. Now, I wasn't actually around playing the game when this happened. I mean, like, I believe I watched some gameplay of this, but PTP Roach back in like Standard was like one of the harder decks to play, and it makes sense, because like you have a lot of different ways you had a few different ways you could win. You could sometimes combine like your 2 win conditions of that, the PTP and that of the Roach, or sometimes you could win separately with, say, just just the PTP or like just the Roaches, and it's one of those. It requires you to be creative, and that's not where like the average community player is, and that's fine. Like no shade, no flame, nothing like that. But not every deck is for every type of player, and that's one of the things that like shows here. There's also Gachimera OTK. So Gachimera OTK, I really meant to put D-Shift here, but. But obviously, a lot of people will probably get really salty that I had like D-Shift under this. Now for D-Shift, as well as just these like OTK like rune strategies, like it's really difficult, because again, you're still playing a combo. Like playing a combo is very, very difficult, because you have to not only manage your hand, we also have to manage what your opponent's doing to you, and you also have to decide when it is they have to keep, and when it is they have to throw away combo pieces, as well as understanding using your HP as a resource and things like that. Like, and that's not something that's intuitive for each and every player, because there are a lot of people who, again, like, and I cannot stress this enough, like if they see a card that they can play, that they have the mana to play, they'll go ahead and automatically play it, like just because to them not playing something is the same as losing, when that's not actually the case a lot of the times. And then for the last one I had on this list, but again, it's the last but not least, because there were like other things that weren't on this list, but by like at the time, like my head, I was like kind of tired when I wrote all of these down. So it's Mid Shadow. So for Mid Shadow, ironically enough, even though Mid Shadow has been out, even though people have had access to playing Mid Shadow for like months now, like I believe this is month 7 now of being able to play the deck, I still see people in like either ranked or unranked who just like play it terribly all the time, just because there are a lot of different decision points that you need to be able to make. Like for example, you need to be able to decide semi early on, how are you gonna win? Are you gonna win with Ektar? Or are you gonna win by just without Ektar or things like that? Do you need to use an offensive Ektar? Do you need to use an aggressive Ektar? Like, do you have Tyrants? Are you gonna push your Tyrant? Like, these things matter, and these are things that you need to decide very, very early on. But not a lot of people think about it, just because, again, for the average player, they usually have no like conceptualization of anything other than the current turn. Like there's no, oh, well, what do I need to play around in my opponent's hand or whatever, or oh, how exactly do I position myself into a winning spot from here, like things like that. Like no shame, no flame, nothing like that. I'm just calling this Pro Warp what it is. And Mid Shadow is a deck that requires you to do that, especially because Mid Shadow no longer has access to stuff like, say, Reapers or, say, 3-mana Catacombs. Like these things, you know, they do like add up or whatever, and in terms of making a deck where you actually have to like think a little bit more. And then conversely, I was also asked what are some easier decks to play in terms of bios as well as decision points. So the first one is Aggro Dragon. So when I say Aggro Dragon, I do not mean Aggro PDK. What I mean is literally like ROB Aggro Dragon, in which you're basically just, you know, trying to play Emissaries for Fortes and just like killing your opponent by, say, turn 5, turn 6, and, you know, true aggro fashion. So the reason why I put it here is because aggro in general, like you just need to like understand trades as well as understand like how to actually position your creatures, which, to be honest, for me personally, doesn't actually take that much time or effort, like because understanding trading in general is pretty quintessential to actually being a good player. And so generally, like, you're really just using skill sets that you should have already had in the first place. But for Aggro Dragon in particular, the reason why I like listed it as like easier is that you have Aelas. Aelas are really fucking annoying for people, especially now with the advent of PDK. Because now, if people don't actually know if you're PDK or not, they might actually. Well, I guess this is all issue, but this is like more especially true now. There's a strong chance that they might just let your Ayla live anyway. I've said this numerous times, but like there are actually games in which I've gotten a single Ayla to deal 10 to 12 damage. That is ridiculous. That should never happen. But yet they did, just because people are very risk averse to killing Aylas, so they just like kill it at the worst possible times, or they just, you know, don't kill it at all, and that's very punishable. The next one on this list is Ambush Aggro. So obviously, when I say Ambush Aggro, I'm specifically talking about like Sword Ambush Aggro. The reason why this is like a little bit easier is that for this one, you get to be a little bit of two decks. You get to be an aggro deck. You also get to have a little bit of combo as well. Because one thing they can do, which I know a lot of people have been like finding pretty funny, and well, I guess I have been finding it pretty funny, but not other people, is that you can actually OTK people with say Sword if you just go like turn 4 Ephemera and the turn 5 Kenoichi Master into like turn 6 like Albert, or turn 6 Round Table, I believe it is, because so the Ephemera will go ahead and give, alright, so the Ephemera effectively, when you have the 4 creatures in play, is basically the same as saying the Ephemera does 5 damage. Then with the Round Table, without an Evolve, that's like saying that the Round Table did 6 damage. So that's already 11 damage right there. Then with the Kenoichi Master as well as the Kenoichi Trainee, that's another, I believe it's 17. That's another 7 damage right there. So right there, from like those like 3 cards, well, really, yeah, 3 cards, provided they still double Juliet left in your deck, that's 17 damage. Is it 17 or 18 damage without an Evo? So obviously, because your Sword, like, there's no way they didn't get that damage beforehand. So you can actually literally just like OTK your opponent. That's very funny to me. Then there's 2, 3, 7, 8 NEP. So I put this here just because it's one of those things that like I feel like people have been like playing for a while. So at this point you should probably be able to like understand it a little bit better, because like, again, if you're like a veteran player, you've probably been like playing since ROB. NEP has been around since ROB, so that's about like 9 months now. Like, so at this point, you if you're even the least bit interested in Shadow, you've probably tried out Nep at least once. And the 2378 is very streamlined in what you do. Like there's no tricks, there's no like fancy stuff. It's just basically just, you have a defensive backbone, you get to 8, you play the Nep grabs you Cowie, grabs you Mord, bam, you're good to go. You're running that game. I also put down neutral aggro. So when I say neutral aggro, like I guess I probably should have clarified what I meant by that. But just the standard like neutral shell and the standard aggressive neutral shell, the standard aggressive neutral shell and whatever type of like neutral flavored deck you wanted. Which in this case is obviously would be either Haven, Rune, Forest, or I believe I'm missing one, or Sword. The reason why I put this here is because you literally had like 3 months to play with it. There were a lot of different ones that ended up as tier one. I believe literally every single one except for Dragon and I believe Shadow ended up at tier 1 at one point. So yeah, so definitely should have a lot of experience, because again, like you literally just play for tempo. That's all you have to do. You're basically just playing a mid range deck where you have like, well, sorry, you're basically just playing a tempo slash aggressive like mid range deck that uses very like either statted or buff statted creatures to just bully your opponent out of the game. I mean, obviously you no longer have the Alice high roll, in that they get to play Alice, and then suddenly all of your dudes are like 3/3s or whatever. You just get to like mow your opponent down, but it still does very well, even with or without the Alice, just because the neutrals have a lot of very strong effects, and of course the accompanying units or spells, as it may or may not be, in those decks like are very powerful. Like stuff like say Council of Cardinals, still very powerful. Stuff like say Felice, still very powerful. Stuff like say Lion, maybe not so much Lion, well, but definitely Eagleman, still very powerful. But yeah, like these are all the questions for this week. As always, if you want me to answer a question on Astandro, you can go ahead and just you can go ahead and leave it for me here on YouTube. Go ahead and leave it for me on Discord. Hit me up on Twitter. Wherever you find me, get at me. I would always love to answer your question. I believe I answered pretty much every single question. If I don't answer your question, I usually go ahead and let you know why I'm not going to answer your question. I'm usually polite about it, because for most part, like, I want to get to know you guys. I want to get to know you, like you guys, the viewers or whatever. Like if you guys have questions, I want to be the person to answer them, just because like I like to I just like helping people, I guess. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, go and leave a like, go and hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys next